D.L. Howard is an author who lives to write high fantasy and urban fantasy with a diverse cast of characters. With a deep passion for photography and traveling, she draws inspiration from the two to help inspire her creativity and bring unique and engrossing stories to her readers. DL, over to you.
Thank you. I'll be reading the beginning of my book that you see right there. The long night was unusually dark and silent until it wasn't. Even on an evening like it was, there would always be someone scurrying around. Yet the streets were strangely empty. His gaze slowly looked up at the darkened sky, and his face twisted into a grimace at what he saw. Flashes of lightning illuminating the distance, revealing a smattering of dark gray clouds that were drifting across the mostly clear sky. The sight of them didn't sit well with him. There was something about it that made him uncomfortable with it all, even if he was protected. Followed in its wake, a deep rumbling sound reverberated through the air like a powerful drum beat. It was reminiscent of the heart-pounding cadence one heard during their sacred rituals. The volatile mix was nature's way of brewing a dangerous storm. It threatened the peace throughout the land that was accustomed to pretty things, including the weather. The storm meant more than just rain. He knew because what he saw threatened the harmony of the land and his Volpi. It was the nature of being in a cursed place. Although Volpi was right for his spirit gods and goddesses demanded, it still wasn't time. Nothing could disrupt the delicate nature of what his work entailed, and an unnatural force of nature would do that. Shifting on his feet, he leaned against the brick wall of the building he hid beside. His dark cloak covered his head and ears, leaving only his face exposed to the elements. The low light where he stood was courtesy of the two moons filling the endless dark expanse above. Countless pinpricks of diamond-like stars peeked through the group of gray clouds. The large silver moon was still in the sky, while its twin, the blue moon, had risen, matching its intensity. It was the holy hour on the holiest of days, Muda. It was the time where most were at home intending to their altars, praying to whatever spirit gods and goddesses who would listen to their greedy prayers in the forsaken land of his birth. He had nothing to worry about. His matron spirit goddess had already deemed him worthy. The soft sound of footsteps approached him from the distance. There was no need to hurry and turn towards the sound because he already knew who it was, even if they were late. He lifted his nose to the air and took a whiff. Their stench of low blood was mixed with cheap ale, a horrid and terrible scented concoction that made him wish he had chosen another. A low growl of disapproval escaped from his chest. He stood in the deep shadows, watching with his glowing golden eyes as the shadowy figures came closer to where he was. One stopped, but another continued on. Golden stepped out of the shadows to meet the one he was waiting for. "Did anyone follow you?" he asked, as the other drew nearer to him. "No, I traveled alone," the other said before looking back over his shoulders, "except for him." Golden Eyes simply nodded. "Do you have it?" "I do," he said, and pulled out a wooden box from within the leather pack he wore across his shoulders. "Acquiring them was difficult, but I retrieved them. The previous owners won't even realize they're missing, not for a long while, especially with today being Muda." Golden took the nondescript box that was being held from the outstretched hand and opened the lid. There, resting on soft plush fabric, were two large raw gemstones. The stones were black as the darkest night. A living red flame glowed from within, making the stones look like a pair of eyes. Excitement filled him within. He searched long and hard for the gemstones, and once he discovered they were nearby, he set out to do whatever he needed to get them. He didn't care how many Cylons he needed to spend. Money was no object. He reached out with his free hand to touch them, then stopped and decided against it. He could feel the heated stare of the one who brought the stones. Curious red eyes observed him too closely. Tempering down his enthusiasm, he snapped the lid closed and secured the box into the folds of his cloak, still in disbelief that he now had possession of the rare gemstones. "My payment?" the courier said, nervously breaking Golden from his thoughts. "Ah, yes." He reached into the folds of his clothes and pulled out a leather pouch. He handed it to the wide-eyed Vulpian. "All of your Cylons are in there, including a little bonus for securing these quickly." Red's grin stretched from ear to ear as he opened the pouch to count his coins. With the deft speed of his fingers, he untied the leather thong and opened it. Red reached inside and pulled out a handful of coins and let them sift through his fingers. The motion reminded Golden of moving water. "Is our business concluded?" he asked, more than ready to depart. A sneer formed on his face as he watched the greedy Vulpian take a Cylon out and bite it. The red courier's head bobbed up and down. A tiny giggle escaped from his lips. More excited than Golden like, he gave a reply. Yeah, it's concluded. As he watched with disgust, he never enjoyed working with the commoners, but sometimes one had to do what needed to be done, especially when he needed the utmost discretion. The courier looked back over his shoulders at the one who came with them and held the leather purse up. For some unexplained reason, the exchange made Golden uneasy. He felt the deep mistrust of the creature, and then a quiet growl slipped past his furrowed lips. Red turned back towards Golden, and when he noticed his expression, the smile on his face slowly disappeared. He looked down into the pouch once more before tying the leather thong. I'll be on my way then. If you need my help again, you know how to find me. Golden doubted he would and said nothing. Don't trust them. The whisper of words rang clear in his mind. Kill them. If he was to get rid of them, then there would be no witnesses to know what had been done. He knew to never leave a job unfinished. Golden stood there and watched his red eyes darted back to his companion. Under the safety of his cloak, his ears perked up as he listened to their whispering chatter and banter between the two. He didn't like where their conversation was going. Something had to be done. Kill them before it's too late, the whispers said again. Standing there, still as the wind, Golden reached within himself, seeking his powers. The low rumble of thunder above became a deafening booming sound. Touching his weld, he used the spell stone he wore in his ring and pulled from it to amplify his strength. He drew on his magic and raw energy as they intertwined with each other. Golden whispered into the inky darkness that lurked in the crevices of everything, coaxing it to do his bidding. The two others were so engrossed in their own conversation that they failed to notice what was happening around them. Too excited for the large purse of coins they had just gained to notice the night become darker, as if it was feeding on itself. They were too caught up to see the tendrils of blackness as it curled around their ankles, then crept up their legs and eventually wrapped around their waist. Golden sauntered towards the carrier of his precious gemstones and stopped when Red and his friends ceased talking. They turned around and looked up, realizing much too late what was happening. Hey, what are you doing? Red asked. His gaze shifted to his friend, who shared the same troubled expression. I promised I won't say anything about the stones or where they came from. I never go back on my word. My honor is of utmost importance to me. Let's get out of here, Red's friend said, with a quiver and trembling in his voice. Golden watched with amusement as his friend tried to leave, but couldn't. When the friend's hand lit up with the green color of his magic, Golden laughed out loud, and the sinister sound made both Vopians caught in his clutches flinch. Honor is a thing of old when you're involved with me. I don't trust you would keep silent. After all, you brought someone with you when I said for you to come alone. Golden lifted his palms up, one by one, his fingers slowly closed into a fist. The Vopian standing behind Red Eyes suddenly let out a painful scream that sliced through the silent night. Red Eyes turned to his friend and let out a choked gasp as the creature violently convulsed while standing there. His eyes rolled back into his head before he collapsed to the ground in a lifeless heap. Fari, get up, Red said nervously. Fari, quit playing around, get up. I don't think your friend Fari is going to get up or go anywhere, Golden said, with false concern etched in his voice. There we go. Thank you.